Hi, welcome to the Brief Book Reviews channel, otherwise known as An Old Guy Reviews the book that he's read this week. So what's the old guy read this week? Well, the book I've read this week is this one. It's called The New Neighbours by author Claire Douglas. Was released as a hardback edition here in the United Kingdom on the 13th of March 2025 by Penguin Michael Joseph. It's the author's 11th novel. All the previous ones have been very well received. And I guess the top level description of the genre, if you will, is this is a suburban psychological thriller. The book is set in Bristol, in the UK. Bristol's a city in the southwest of England, and the central character is called Lena. Lena lives in the Redland area of Bristol, nice leafy suburb. She lives at home with her son Rufus. Rufus is 17, at college, soon to fly the nest, go to uni. And she's separated from her husband Charlie. Charlie's a painter and decorator, and also, but mainly, a drummer. He's a drummer in a band which had limited success, but they've been separated for the last year. So Lena works at the local Citizens Advice Bureau. She works 3 days a week. And she's at a stage where she thinks she's possibly at a crossroads in her life. She's separated from her husband. She's not sure if that's been a good or a bad move. Her son Rufus is just about to flee the nest, and she's wondering, do I need to look at other jobs? What should I do? So all this is going on as the book starts, and she's coming back from work one day and she meets her new neighbours. It turns out the house next door was empty and there are some new people who moved in. And they're out in the garden and they introduce themselves. They're the Morgans. They're Henry and Marielle. Henry is a retired neurosurgeon. Marielle used to be a university lecturer. So they're good, retired professional people. And Lena thinks, fair enough, they're liable to be good neighbours. She notes that Marielle is whenever she sees her, is fairly immaculately dressed, and thinks, blimey, compared to me, that's a bit of a change. But doesn't think too much of it, and life carries on as normal for a while. And then one day, her son Rufus is very much into media. He's into film studies and stuff like that, and he's got a project for college. So he's got some of the college's audio equipment. And he said, I'm really pushed for time. And I need some ambient noise recorded from the garden at night. Birds, animals, cricket, whatever. Basically, the noises you'd hear in a garden. He needs that as a background to a potential film he's making. And Lena says, don't worry. Summer, long evenings. I'll help you out. So one night Lena is at home alone. She thinks, must do Rufus's noises. Gets the boom mic, and of course it's summer. All the windows are open, and she hears what she considers a fairly disturbing conversation, and it's coming from next door, from Henry and Marielle, the new neighbours. And it's along the lines of, "You promised me you'd take her. I got everything ready, the room." And she's thinking, what on earth's going on? It sounds like Henry and Marielle are planning a kidnapping. And she says, maybe I'm reading too much into it. But the conversation carries on, and then she thought, no, I'm recording this, I'll stop, So it's playing on her mind, and she's thinking, I don't know, they seem very nice people, but this just doesn't seem right. And as the days go by, she tells Rufus the conversation, and he says, "Come on, Mum, you're imagining it, it can't be it." But she notices things about Henry and Marielle that don't quite add up. Marielle appears to be pushing a pram one day a week, looking after what she says is her grandson, and not quite sure, what's going on there, because she seems very secretive about the baby. And also, they just don't seem right. There's something, at the back of the old amygdala, the spidey sense, I guess, where Lena thinks, there's something off about these two, not quite sure what it is. And she's really disturbed about the conversation that she's overheard. She tells her friend Joe, who's a lawyer, and Joe said, "Look, you got enough on your plate, don't get involved." but Lena can't help getting involved. And thus the tale unfolds, where Lena is trying to find out more about Henry and Marielle. And as the tale progresses, it looks like possibly there could be a link to something that's happened in her past, and something in her past that she wants to forget. So, really good tale. Well written. You empathise with Lena because, haven't we all thought occasionally, well, I'm not too sure about some of the people that live around here, and the tension builds. There's a bit of misdirection. We have a few subsidiary stories. One of there's a tale involving one of Lena's customers, Drew, at Citizens Advice. We've got what Rufus is up to at college. So a lot going on. Really good tale. I guess if one was being critical, you'd say it's it's a fairly straightforward story. These dodgy neighbours are clearly up to something, and we need to find out what it is. So as far as that's concerned, it's great. So maybe there could have been some other subplots. I don't know. It's as I said, that's probably being picky. The story is told from the perspective of the various characters involved, and we go back and forward for the current day and what has happened in the past. And clearly there are some events in the past that affect the current situation. So, yeah, a very enjoyable read, 389 pages. I read it in 2 sessions. I'd give it 7 out of 10. It's a worthwhile read. A really enjoyable, as I said, suburban psychological thriller. I think that's it for this week's brief book review. 10/10 till we do it again. Thanks for watching. Bye.